continue today with our class Kosher Kitchen, and this session and all of them should be dedicated to Refash Lema, our dear Rabbi Yaron Roen Shlita. His name is Yaron Ben Doris. Also to Yehudis Bas Noach, Ariela Ora Bas Anna, Mima Rasiracha Bas Brindel, David Shlomo Ben Sandra. Quick release of our dear friend Moshe Shmuel Ben Pnina. Also to Atzlacha Rabbi Giveres Chana Bas Abraham and the whole family. All right. Alright, so today we continue with our class Kosher Kitchen, and we're in chapter 19. I think it's the last chapter. Let me quickly check. Yes, I think it's the last chapter. Right, last chapter. Alright, and our topic, list of utensils. So it's a kosher kitchen, utensil by utensil. And it was beautiful introduction, and I actually use this introduction in other classes, right? In other classes, because it's amazing. Just quickly this amazing idea. So some women they learn from their mothers, from their grandmothers, what the kosher is to be. So these mothers were not very educated people, right? Maybe grandmothers, but they were very dedicated to kashrus, right? And sometimes what they did is not actually halachah. They would go beyond the letter of the law. So, and he said, even though we say here we're going to state what halachah is, right? Accepted halachah, if you in your family, right, a tradition, you do something like a more machmir, like more stringent, stay with that tradition. It's very interesting, right? So they did not know much, but they but what they did, they performed, and they were 100% kosher. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Okay, so let's continue BeEzrat HaShem. So now we're going to, I think it's in alphabetical order, a list of utensils. And it says barbecue used for grilling meat may certainly not be used for a dairy food or for anything that be served with dairy. Right. The grit should also not be used for grilling fish. Right. The barbecue grit is difficult to clean, and is assumed to contain meat and gravy residue. Of course, even if the grit were properly clean of all residue, it should not be used for food that eaten with dairy. Even using separate dairy and meat grit may be problematic, depending upon the type of grill. One should seek rabbinic guidance. A closed grill should not be used simultaneously. I'm not sure what was simultaneously for meat and powder food, intending it to be eaten with dairy. Since aroma of the meat penetrates the powder food, and meat splatters on the cover, and may fall into the powder food during the course of grilling. See great grill below. Great grill below. Okay. The grill itself, even an electric grill, requires tevilah. Right. If the grill is Teflon coated, tevilah should be done without bracha. So let's see. Let's see from the beginning, and we will try to understand. So barbecue, okay. So barbecue used for grilling meat may certainly not be used for dairy food. I mean, it's obvious. Even the people put aluminum foil, like how is it working now? You have the dripping. Even forget about this the metal stuff, right? The rack. It's actually drips on the bottom, all of this fat, and then nobody cleans fat. The grid itself they clean, but not on the bottom. So it's usually dirty, and then you start new coals, and it's going to come up, right? So of course this thing we don't do. We don't use the same grill for meat and dairy. Okay, that's good. The grit also not be used for grilling fish. So bread is this net, this thing. Okay. Not to be forgiven fish again, because some people try to clean it. We had once for some time neighbors. They like to do parties. Nice people, but they like company. They like company, and they like this barbecue. And they would drink l'chaim a little too much sometimes, non-Jews, Baruch Hashem, right? And they would never, of course, but by the end of the party, they never clean out the grill. But so next time when they start, it starts smelling so bad. It's unbelievable. So they had to close all the windows, like everything. Right. So, and even people try to clean it. I think it's possible to clean it. It's, of course, they sell some sprays, some brushes, but to clean thoroughly, it's a big deal. Okay. So meaning a person should not grill fish. Of course, I mean, if you put aluminum foil, like the heavy one, maybe 2 or 3 layers, so it's a different story. Okay. Right. But usually people don't do that. Okay. So the barbecue grid is difficult to clean and assumed to contain meat and gravy residue, right? And people usually like it's such right, so it's time consuming, right? And people just stop cleaning after sometimes they would burn out. Even if the grid were properly cleaned of all residue, it should not be used for the food eaten with daily. Especially if they close the cover, as we're going to see. I mean, in a sense, this grill is this barbecue is very is very similar to oven, right? So meaning if people are doing it at the same time meat and dairy, we were talking about challah, right? So the person tried to save time. So one thing we said, don't put one under another. Right, but even on the same level, like since the stove is not such a big stove, unless you have some commercial one, right? It's not such a wide stove, and it can splatter very simple. If it covered completely with a lid or with a double aluminum foil, that's a different thing. So as we said, yes, you can you can actually do paref and meat, and then you can eat paref with dairy, but only if you know sure that there is no like escaping of the steam. But otherwise, it's problematic, right? So here he said, don't do it in the same time, right? Right, and at the same time, for example, this paref, or what is paref? Are some vegetables, right? So the person wants to do grilled vegetables, tomatoes, peppers, right? And then eat it with cheese or something. So they say don't do it. Continue. Even using separate dairy and meat grids may be problematic. I mean, right. Like from my experience, if you call the company and you try to buy the grid separately, it's going to cost you like 75% of the whole grill. It simply does not make sense. Okay, but people sometimes they do what they want. I mean, you can buy that, there's no problem, right? But that's what it is. And plus, they're so heavy, just shipping is going to cost a lot. Okay. But they say still if you get this extra grill, separate grid, so it's still problematic. Depending on type of the grill, one should seek rabbinic guidance. I think don't do it. Like why do you need this thing? Just buy, I guess, some electric oven, right? This they whatever they call it today is so convection or whatever they call it, like small oven, and then use it for daily. That's it. Right? Don't use the same equipment. A closed grill should not be used simultaneously for meat and paref food intended to be eaten with dairy, right? So that's, I mean, if it's open, of course, as we close, is like subject to the aroma, the steam is going out of like from under the cover, for example, or from the lid. In many lids there is a tiny hole, intentionally made in the lid, so that the steam can escape. So of course you cannot have your vegetables or whatever, bread or whatever you do, and in the same stove as meat. And then intend to eat this bread with dairy or vegetables. Okay, so continue. Right, since as we said, the aroma of the meat penetrates the party food, guarantee. Right, and meat splatters on the cover, and may fall into the party food during the grilling. So meaning that all of the steam goes up and then cool down and can fall onto you. Onto party food. So even without, as we said, without touching, it's like physics. Okay. Continue. See gate grill, grate grill. Okay, so we're going to speak about it below. The grill itself, even electric one, requires tevilah. The grill itself. So as we said before, this George Foreman thing or whatever. So it requires tevilah. In this case, in the case of barbecue, you need to toggle only this grid, right? Because like top and bottom do not touch the food at all. Okay. The grid is Teflon coated. Tevilah should be done without bracha. So I think today, unless you do Teflon coating, the food is going to stick to it. So I think majority of them have some kind of coating, Teflon or others. Right. I think there is a new coating past 5 years, and I don't remember what is it called, but I think it's very good. So we bought some time ago. We bought a frying pan. Okay. Right. So continue. Blender. A blender is essentially a knife, right? And a subject of all of the halachas noted below regarding knife. The halachos of knives are discussed in chapter 8. A part of blender should not be used with onions, cut with a meat and dairy knife or dairy knife. One should not use the meat blender even for a cold dairy, or part of blender even for cold meat or dairy, since the blades are difficult to clean properly, and the blades and the glass bowl of the blender requires tevilah. The body of the blender, if detachable, does not require tevilah. An electric one-piece blender, handled electric one-piece handled immersion blender requires tevilah in its entirety, including the cord and the plug. Okay, so let's try to understand these blenders. So today blenders, I think all of them detachable. Otherwise, like, how does it make sense? How you can wash it, right? So, but let's see. So from the beginning, a blender is essentially a knife, and we spent, I don't know how many classes we spent on a knife, and we said like a knife is a special halachah, right? Because when we were discussing other foods and how the taste of this food, right, enters the vessel. So we said that it's through the heat, right, through the heat. But regarding knife, we said no, it's not through the heat, right? Even with cold, but because of the it's a special spiritual thing, because of the pressure. But pressure that we apply, even if it's very sharp, you still apply some pressure and the sharp edge. So combination of two make this knife like very, very different from all other utensils. And we said actually not only knife. In this sense, it could be a fork. If a person used fork to cut things, it's also in a sense like working as a knife, which is a different story. Okay. So continue. The halachos of the knife are discussed in chapter 8. Okay. The part of blender should not be used with onions, cut with a meat or dairy knife. right? So we said, so when what was the expression? I forgot the expression. The expression of sharp foods. There are special sharp foods. We said it's onions. We said it's garlic, radishes, some other things, right? So we mean some sharp foods, ginger, right? All those things. So meaning when person cuts those, because they're sharp, right, with a meat knife, so this onion becomes meat. So now you're not allowed to use this onion. So if you use this onion with in your cheese omelet, so it becomes meat and milk combination, right? So it's an exception. It's exception is a knife. Okay. So now we said if you have a pot of blender, should not be used with the onions that were cut with meat and the dairy knife. Because what? Because this onion becomes dairy, even without any cooking with dairy, nothing, right? Because they cut with a cold dairy knife, for example, and even if it's not ben yama. So right, that's we said it's very, again, this halachas of knife is very different. So this taste of dairy is going to stay in knife forever, basically, until we take it out. Right, so, which is very different from all other utensils. We said after 24 hours, if it's not non-benyamo, the taste spoils. Of course, a rabbi say that you have to kosher, but technically after the fact, if a person cooked the food is allowed. Right, so you don't have to be stringent. It's allowed according to all opinion. So don't throw it away. Of course, you have to kosher utensil, but the food is allowed after 24 hours. But knife is not kosher, but the taste is not spoiled in a knife after 24 hours. One should not use meat blender, even for a cold dairy or part of, right, for cold dairy. I'm not sure why somebody would do that, but okay. Or part of blender, even with the cold meat or dairy, right? Since the blade are difficult to clean properly. So even, so technically, right, right. Even if somebody use it for, I don't know, for this, for this meat, I'm not sure why somebody would do that. So if it's part, keep it part. And same with knife. It's very important to have 3 sets of knives. Have a part of knife that you cut only part. So usually, for most of the families, I think it's the most used ones type of the part of knife. So you cut bread with that. You have you cut vegetables, all other things, right? Fruits, right? And then you have meat knives. Okay, several knives, 2, 3, whatever you need. And fish knife, I think 1, 2 knives should be more than enough. Fish knife, okay. And dairy knife. Okay, fish knife is not strictly necessary, but as we said, it's very, very recommended to have a special, separate knife for fish. Okay. All right, so don't, if it's part of blender, don't do dairy there and part of there. Okay, but today blender is so cheap. Right, now this week they have a big sale on Amazon, so they're so cheap. So buy yourself a smaller blender. That's it. Right, buy yourself for dairy if a person needs, and for meat for whatever reason, you buy food processor or something. Right, that's it. Okay. Okay, so since the blades are difficult to clean properly, the blades and the glass bowl. So I'm not sure if today they do glass bowl. Usually, I think today most of the bowls are plastic, like very strong, whatever they call it, special plastic, right? Very, very sturdy. So so you're not obligated to what is it? To toggle it, but we always recommend that sometimes there is a metal parts in that, so right, that touch the food. So in this case, yeah, you would need to toggle it. Okay, so you, if blade is removable, so of course you say that the blessing on the blade, and then you can toggle without blessing whatever you want. Right, but if it's of glass, of course you use the toggle with blessing. if the body of the blender is detachable, right, does not require tevilah, right? So meaning the motor part, all of this right, electronic part. Usually it is detachable. So the only, for example, that we have not detachable is a coffee grinder, right? Coffee grinder, but everything else it's actually detachable, because again you need to clean somehow, right? Electric one-piece handled immersion blender requires tevilah in its entirety, including the cord and plug. So it's the first one. So today, actually, wherever they sell, if you see the picture, all of them detachable. Again, because you need to wash them. Okay. So continue. So now I think they advance a lot, like in technologies, and make our life much more easier. Okay, so continue. Bread. Bread that was used during the course of the meat meal is rabbinically prohibited from being used in dairy meal. Bread is often handled during the meal. I'm sorry. Perhaps some meat residue on someone's hand adhere to it. Thus, a housewife who makes challah kugel from leftover on Shabbos challah may not use that kugel for a dairy meal. Similarly, the leftover challah may not be used for a dairy seudah shlishis. Dairy seudah shlishis. Okay, I mean, yeah, you can do dairy seudah shlishis. Or a dairy French toast on Sunday morning. Okay. This refers only to sliced challah. However, okay, exactly. However, is the challah loaf itself is not usually touched by those who present, and it is a remnant, and its remnant may be used for a daily meal. Obviously, if children do in fact touch the loaf, the halachah cited regarding sliced bread apply even to the whole loaf. Right. So all right. So let's do from the beginning and we understand. So now we're going to Halachos of Bread. So usually, right, we try to, as we said, one thing that we said before about this barbecue, right? Don't bake the bread with meat together in one oven. So technically you can, but this bread is going to be meat bread. So, for example, some people who do not eat do not eat dairy at all, there is no problem. Yeah. So and they eat paref right at all, right? So they eat a paref for meat. There is no problem. Have your bread, meat bread. So I mean, there's no problem whatsoever. You save time, you save money on the gas, on electric when we cook everything in the same oven. Plus, you get flavored bread. There is no problem. But for other people, you cannot do that. So especially if you're planning to eat this bread with the dairy and meat, right? That's and part of there's no problem, but with dairy is a problem. Okay. So it's proper. For example, if you start your baking process, you're preparing for Shabbos with bread. First, you bake challah. So your stove was not used for 24 hours, most likely, right? I mean, was not used for meat. So now you start with challah, and then you can do whatever you need to do, and all of this are going to be part of. I mean, bread is going to be part of. Okay. Which is good, and then this bread you will be able to eat with meat and dairy. So, but here they go into step further, right? And they say that our rabbis say that it is rabbinically forbidden to use the bread that was part of the meat meal for a daily meal. So what we're afraid of that right? So bread is often handled. So handled meaning I guess like cut pieces, right? Handled, and the problem is our dear children, right? Children they do whatever they want. basically, right? But again, if it's right, so if it's leftover bread, like slices, for example, cut a piece for a child, he did not eat, he bite one time. Of course, you're not going to throw out. So right, and you would save it, right? And what? But this piece of bread, it's meat, 100% meat. They were eating meat. They touched bread, this piece of bread all over, right? But the remaining of the loaf is not, for example, if it was stained by the head of the family, then nobody touch him, and only he, for example, only she cut it with clean hands, and then nobody touched it like until the end of the meal when the hands were clean, and nobody ate with their hands. There is no problem. So this loaf you can eat during the bread, the daily meal. So, but we have to be very careful with that. So, but sliced bread, since it was on the table, so we don't know what the status. So we don't eat it with the daily meal. Okay, so next one is a housewife who makes challah, kugel from leftover Shabbos challah. So that's what they do. They don't know not to throw the bread. As we said, it's a good sgula to get very poor. You want to get very poor, and right, and so that's what we do. You start with throwing out bread. Okay, guaranteed. All right, so what would people do? They actually bake challah kugel. I mean, it's very, very tough food. I mean, it's very heavy food to eat it after the Shabbos. But some people like, and they gain 100 pounds, and because of this challah. Okay, challah kugel, leftover Shabbos. Right. So you can make a challah kugel, but you cannot eat it with a daily meal. So. Okay. So I mean, in a plan, what are you going to do with this challah? I mean, you can make it and eat this challah kugel during the week. There is no problem. Or make it on Sunday, for example. Don't if you planning to eat daily on Melava Malka. Right, and he continues. Similarly, leftover challah may not be used for daily Seudah Shlishis. Okay, so I mean, for me, it's very strange to have daily Seudah Shlishis. Technically, there is no problem whatsoever. There is no problem whatsoever. Technically, if you think about it, especially in the summer, it's much more than 6 hours past, right? So technically, there is no problem. But maybe some people do. Right. Or French toast on Sunday, right? Again, we're talking about this sliced bread because people touched it, okay, with the soiled hands. However, challah loaf itself not usually touched by those present, right? And its remnant may be used for a daily meal. Okay, so when they're talking about not allowed to use, only cut slices. Obviously, if children do in fact touch the loaf, right? The Halachah cited regarding sliced challah apply to the loaf as well, of course, as we understand, right? Because there is a very big possibility that it was touched. So advice is not to have a lot of bread left over. Just calculate how much bread you eat, and if you make your own challah, so make it smaller. If you buy it from the store, don't buy this huge gigantic challah and then throw out the leftover. Do something with that, right? So buy smaller rolls. That's it. Very, very small, straightforward. Buy a set of rolls, so you don't have too much left over. Okay. Some people somehow they told me there is no bread rolls by them kosher. I don't know why. I don't remember the story, but I told them, but pita you have? They say, yeah, pita we have. We have life. We like pita. I said, so buy pita. Where's the problem? Yeah, buy pita and you use pita for 2 breads. Okay. Continue. So next one is, so we understand the problem with the bread, right? That you cannot use it, the sliced bread that already sliced on a table when people touch during the meat meal with a dairy mill, right? But whatever was untouched and was under your supervision, so you can use it for with dairy mill, no problem. Right, so continue. Breadboard. One may slice bread on a part of breadboard with a part of knife, regardless of whether it to be used for a meat or dairy meal. Okay. Since one should not butter the sliced bread or cut a salami or cream cheese sandwich on a part of a breadboard. A wooden challah board does not require tevilah. Okay, a challah board with a glass, with a glass cutting surface requires tevilah with a bracha. If the glass is plexiglass or any plastic substitute, no tevilah required. Okay, so beautiful, beautiful, very, very practical. So again, the breadboard. So usually, I mean, we use a breadboard only on Shabbos and holidays. So I think most of them have this glass top, right? So it looks better and you don't damage the wood and stuff like that, right? So in this case, you just toggle, even though it's you can disassemble. So if person does not feel fine like to toggle the whole piece, there is no problem, since it's on 2 screws usually, right? So you can unscrew and you can toggle only the glass part. I think that's what we did, because only glass part touches the bread, so like it covers the whole board. Okay, but if the thing like in my mind, like if you're going to dip it in the ocean or something, that would ruin the silver. Usually, like it's silver, like under the glass there is silver like design or something. It might ruin. So in this case, if you're using ocean or sea or some other like not simple water, so, or some like even the mikvah with a lot of chlorine. So I would recommend to dip only the top. Okay. Right. So again, one may slice bread on a part of a breadboard with a part of knife. So it's always part of, regardless of whether it is be used with the meat or dairy mill. So I mean, you don't do anything on that board. You just cut the bread and take it away and put it in a plate or some serving dish, whatever you do, and you're right. And so meaning there's no meat, no dairy touches that board. And I'm not sure why would somebody do that, but he has to warn us. One should not butter a slice of bread. So meaning right there on the board, or cut salami, or cream cheese sandwich, right? Salami or cream cheese sandwich on a part of breadboard. So maybe it's breadboard is that I just described for Shabbos, but also the people use it like a regular cutting board. Right, only for cut bread. So make sure that you keep this cutting board part. Don't use for anything else. Right, so it's proper, as we said. You have cutting boards. You have one for parv. Some people have separate for bread, separate for vegetables, for fish, and for meat. Okay, a few of them. Okay, no problem. So continue. So one second. So a wooden challah board does not require tevilah. If it's like a regular challah board, they may make it from bamboo, from other type of wood. So yeah, you don't require tevilah again. But if you're already going to mikveh and you have other utensils, of course without blessing. So why don't do it? Okay. So challah board with a glass cutting surface require tevilah. So that's I think people usually only use it for Shabbos. That's my personal understanding, but I could be wrong. Maybe somebody, and right. I never heard that somebody would use this one during the week. Maybe they do, but usually it's for Shabbos. Like it's Right. Very nice looking. Okay. If the glass double quotes is a plexiglass, so meaning plexiglass, it's a plastic. I'm not sure how it could be plastic. I'm not sure, because the plastic is it's like it's a softer, so you can simply like a scratch. You cut it once and you scratch the surface. That's why they use a real glass, so you cannot scratch it. So, but let's say there's special plexiglass, meaning plastic substitutes do not require tefillah. Okay. So next one is a bread box. Okay. One may store bread in a bread box, regardless of whether it is used with a metal or meat or dairy meal. Bread that came in a contact with meat and dairy should not be returned to the part of bread box unless placed into marked plastic bag. Okay, so I'm not sure how many people are using today Breadbox, but in all the days it was very popular. Since when people ate a lot of bread, right? Why ate a lot of bread? Because people were much poorer. So when you eat bread, you put like on top piece of butter, and that's it. That's your dinner, right? Right, that's it. But right, of course you would need the bread box. But today people have all of the other type of foods, vegetables all year round, fancy schmancy, right? So that's the life is very different. Okay, so again, one may store bread in a bread box regardless of whether it is be used with a meat or dairy meal. So and we said usually like a bread we store there in a plastic bag, or if it's without bag, so you put it some kind of like paper towel or something on the bottom, so it does not touch actually the bottom. Bread that came in a contact with the meat or dairy should not be returned in a part of bread box, right, unless placed in a marked plastic bag. Okay, so again, this residue can be transferred back and forth, so that's why they say don't do it. So meaning if it was for sure, you know that it got in contact with, like somebody touched it with the soiled hands, that's the problem. Okay. So continue. Bread knife. Paskim Paskim commend the custom of punctilious individuals to keep a separate part of a bread knife. This was referring to the previous times when the bread was sold as a whole loaf. Right. Nowadays, the bread is usually sold as a sliced. Right, the slice, and it is not common to have a separate bread knife. Okay. It is only on Shabbos when we usually slice challah, right? And the most households have a special challah board and knife. Nevertheless, one must be careful with regard to the cutting bread. Often one slices a roll, bagel, Bailey, or Italian bread. Okay. This should not be cut with a meat knife or with meat knife if they are to be used with a dairy meal. Conversely, they should not be cut with a dairy knife if they're going to be used with a meat meal. No distinction is made between ben yama and non-ben yama knife, right? As we learned a long time, as we said, right? One who must use a meat knife to cut bread for dairy meal should do netzah, right? Thrusting the knife into the hard soil 10 times beforehand if possible. The process of netzah and many other relevant halachas discussed in chapter 8, section 3. If one cannot do netzah, the knife should be thoroughly cleaned of any grease residue with a steel wool. If the meat knife was used to cut bread if the meat knife was used to cut bread before the knife was cleaned, the cut surface of the bread should be scraped. Poskim relate that the common custom is not to rely initially upon netzah, but rather to cut bread with dairy knife, to cut bread for dairy meal with a dairy knife only, and vice versa, or to use parif knife. Okay, so as we said before, knife is a totally separate story. Okay, so let's go over the knife. Okay, so Paskim commend the custom of punctilious individuals to keep the separate parif knife. So today, again, it's so cheap today, so not to have a separate bread knife is a problematic. So and usually like it has like this teeth, right? It's easy to cut, and like almost no you don't apply pressure. There is only a few crumbs. So I mean, it's amazing. So why people would not have it, I'm not sure. So especially today, if you buy these knives, if you buy set, it's going to be 2 times or 3 times cheaper if you buy them individually. So why don't you buy the big set? Okay. Buy big set, and then you can split and use the knives the way you want it. Right. So as we said before, even one set you can divide in 3 parts. You can buy a spray paint, right? That's what we do. Spray paint and spray paint the handles with white for dairy, red for meat, and black for parf. Or buy with separate handles, whatever you want. Whatever we do is good. Understand? But not to have a bread knife. It's not to have okay, maybe not a bread knife, but at least parif knife for sure. That you never would use this knife for anything else. So why would somebody not do it? It's beyond me. I don't know. Okay. So again, this was right. So this refers to the previous times when the bread was sold as a whole loaf. Right. Today, many loaves sold as a cut bread. Right. Nowadays, the bread is usually sold sliced. Right. And it is not common to have a separate bread knife. Okay. But yes, it's not common to have a separate knife because you don't need it on one hand, but on the Shabbos, since we require the whole challah, as we learned in Kashrus of Blender, right, on Tuesday, so you require 2 whole challah. Right, so then you require a knife, but usually people buy in Judaica store, right? These boards, like challah boards, beautiful challah boards. Whatever you buy is good. Whatever you like is good, and they come with knife or without knife, right? So beautiful knife, like make it something like that you would enjoy using every Shabbos and every Yom Tov, right? So okay, so now we do have a bread knife, but if a person buys regular bread, not sliced bread, or for example, if a person eats leftover bread from Shabbos, right? Still, for sure, it's not sliced, so you need a knife to slice it. Usually, it's not not advisable to use this Shabbos knife for during the weekday, because it's like in some sense like disrespect. Okay. Nevertheless, one must be careful with regard to the cutting bread. Okay, so a minute, right? Often one slices a roll, a bagel or Bailey Italian bread. Okay, so yes, so even like not even in addition to what I said, so you have a remnant of bread from Shabbos that you need to cut. Plus, if somebody buys a roll, so rolls, do they sell them cut? I'm not sure. Bagels, yeah, sometimes they call it pre-cut, right? But sometimes they like normal bagel, like complete, right? So in this case, yes, you would need still you need a knife to cut it. Okay, right? Italian bread also. Okay, so yes, it's not cut. This should not be cut with a meat knife, right? If they are to be eaten with a dairy meal. Right, so usually when the people eat the bagels, so they eat with the butter or cream cheese. Okay. So, but again, it's proper to cut, like to have to make yourself a roll, to cut all of the bread, rolls, all of these things with a bread knife, right? Bread knife or parif knife, always, absolutely always. Okay. Conversely, they should not be cut with a dairy knife, and you use for a meat meal. Okay. No, right. So meaning We got it. No distinction made between the ben yama and non-ben yama knife, right? As we said before. So meaning the taste of this knife that was used for dairy, even though it was 2 weeks ago, still should not cut with a bread that is going to be used for a meat meal. So that's again, it's only exception that applies to knife. So again, this taste can you like taste this 1 millionth or of ratio of the taste in this meat meal? I don't think so. But it's more on a spiritual level, I think, and that's our sages say it's forbidden, so that's forbidden, and we should not go into calculations of the ratio. If it's more than 1 to 60, it's more than 1 to 10,000. Okay, but still. Okay. One who must use the meat knife to cut bread for a daily meal should do netza. So netza, we said stick it in a hard soil. So we said usually the plants, like if you have plants in your house, the pots usually it's not going to work, right? Because it's like soft soil. That's not what we need. We need something hard. So hard meaning that it's going to clean something abrasive, right? So that it's going to clean the surface, right? We trust it 10 times, and that's how we kosher knife, right? So I said before, if possible. The price of Neitza and many other relevant halachas discussed in chapter 8. Got it. If one cannot do Neitza, the knife should be thoroughly clean, right, of any grease. So meaning it's here we're going to do it after the fact because there is no other way, right? There is no other way. So they say that technically, if you clean all of the grease, like you know that it was clean, so you clean again, make sure it's there's nothing there. Even sometimes there is a remnant next to the piece where the blade meets the handle, right? Clean that thoroughly, right? And then you can use, right? Then you can use, 1 second, right? And they say clean it with a steel wool, again something abrasive. So I'm not sure if you're going to, a person can damage the knife if they're going to do that. Okay. If meat knife was used to cut the bread, before the knife was cleaned, right? So meaning with dirty knife. So this if we clean the knife, the way that he's saying, so we can cut after the fact. Yes, we can cut like bread with a meat knife that is going to be used with a daily meal, but it was not cut. So they say you have to scrape the surface. Okay. Poskim relate that the common custom is not to rely on initially of Neitza, but rather to cut bread with a daily right. So meaning again, so we're going back again, today in different times, have a set of knives that cost not much, right? And it's going to last you for many years, right? So meaning that if you have a daily meal cut with a pot of knife, or with a daily knife, you have meat meal cut with a pot of knife or a meat knife. Okay. So just 1 second, let me quickly check time. Right, I think that's a good place to start. So we start. So next one is broiler. Broiler is a lot. Okay. So let's take 5 minutes break and we continue with the other topics. 5 minutes.